Hello, everybody. This is some random Neko, waking up from my nap to greet the world for the day. And by greet, I mean brush off my DVDs and rewatch Now You See Me, a refreshing take on the heist film genre with more twists than you can wave a magic wand at. All in preparation for the release of the third installment of the Now You See Me film series, which was a real surprise to see considering the last film came out 9 years ago. But hey, I don't mind being given an excuse to rewatch one of the most entertaining films I was fortunate enough to experience on the big screen. Four magicians answer a mysterious summons and form a team of talented illusionists called the Four Horsemen, who mesmerize audiences with amazing magic shows that double as heists that drain the bank accounts of the corrupt and funnel the money back to the people. This puts FBI agent Dylan Rhodes and Interpol agent Alma Dre on the case to find out how they did it and arrest them by any means necessary. However, the mystery proves difficult to solve even with the insights of professional debunker Thaddeus Bradley. What follows is a bizarre investigation where nothing is what it seems to be, and all those involved are reminded that the closer you look, the less you'll see. Now You See Me is a fun heist film that requires you to turn off your brain to truly enjoy it, and the story matches that energy accordingly. While the overall plot is nothing special, what makes the film stand out is its use of magicians and stage performances to pull off the heist, as well as the Robin Hood twist where instead of keeping the money they steal, they give it back to the people. The film also feels like one big magic trick, given its use of misdirection through the many moving parts and different people involved, which keeps you guessing as to who the true mastermind could be until the very end. The humor was pretty enjoyable as well, never obstructing or stalling the plot in any way, which is really the best kind of humor you can hope for in an action thriller caper. I also appreciate the consistent pace of the story and how it never sped up to an unreasonable degree or came to a sudden halt. And I really love that they show how the tricks are done, giving particular focus to the ones that help build up to the grand finale reveal, where everything comes together like a puzzle finally being solved. But what really helps to sell the magic show that is this film are the characters. First, we have our performers, the Four Horsemen: Daniel Atlas, Henley Reeves, Merritt McKinney, and Jack Wilder. The film takes great care in establishing their respective roles as the showman, the escape artist, the mentalist, and the sleight, and how all their skills combined allow them to pull off the stunts that they do. It also associates each horseman with a major arcana from the tarot, which serves as symbolic insights into their personalities, relationships, and eventual fates. Then we have their opposition in the form of Dylan Rhodes and Alma Dre, the cops to the horsemen's robbers, Thaddeus Bradley, a debunker chasing after his next big windfall, and Arthur Tressler, the Prince John in the horsemen's modern-day Robin Hood tale. I enjoyed all the characters and what they brought to the table, despite shallow character development and lacking backstories. But then again, this is a heist film, so as much as I would have appreciated it, we don't really need to know anything about them beyond what they contribute. And at the very least, the character dynamics more than make up for this lack, as the horsemen feel like a found family, and the animosity between Dylan and Thaddeus makes a karmic justice delivered at the end all the more satisfying. In regards to production, it was pretty amazing. While the soundtrack added an appropriate musical flair fitting for a heist film, it wasn't anything special that I paid attention to, beyond the few scores that make it distinguishable from other heist film soundtracks. However, the same can't be said about the other aspects of production, as it really put its budget to full use in bringing magic to the stage. All the tricks were done with practical and CGI effects to create the awesome stage shows we only had to pay theater ticket or DVD price for admission to see. And while I loved all the tricks that were performed, it's unfortunate that CGI movie magic did most of the heavy lifting. But then again, stage magic is about bringing the impossible to life and keeping the audience guessing as to how it was done. So the film at least succeeds in that regard. And the action scenes were thrilling to watch, with heart-pumping adrenaline that keeps you on the edge of your seat as you wonder if the horsemen will be able to evade capture, and the combat sequences were especially creative with the use of magic tricks over traditional fisticuffs. Unfortunately, despite all the good things the film has going for it, there are quite a few jarring flaws that leave you confused despite the film's attempts to clear up that confusion. Most of the confusion comes from plot holes and questions that crop up from the story's execution. Like how and when did the horsemen teleport Etienne back without revealing how the trick was done? How did Tressler become the horsemen's patron when they were all underground or relatively unknown magicians? When did Dylan's boss get hypnotized? What was the point of him being hypnotized? What exactly are the things Hanley was talking about setting right, because the only thing they did after that speech was their disappearing act? Why was an implication made about Lionel Shrike's body never being found if nothing was ever going to come from it in this film and its sequel? How did the car chase work? Because when they explained the trick pulled during it, it was quite clear that it depended entirely on right time, right place, which considering New York traffic would have never been able to happen the way it did in the film. There's also plenty of other issues with the story, like the romantic side plot between Dylan and Alma, which was absolutely unnecessary as it didn't add anything to their characters. I really wish they kept the relationship between them as platonic, with Dylan playing the role of the skeptic and Alma the believer, as their bond developed from reluctant partners to close friends. And while Dylan's character didn't suffer much from this unneeded romance, Alma's definitely did, as it felt like the writers knew what they wanted to do with her in the beginning, but then soon lost the plot as the story went on, and she ended up becoming just a love interest for Dylan, which was such a waste of her character. And the eye, while an interesting concept, was kinda introduced out of nowhere. Like, how did Thaddeus connect the horseman to the eye when the first show they didn't seem to have anything to do with the eye's goal of balancing the scales of justice? And while you could reasonably manage to ignore all the flaws of the film, if you're rewatching it after watching the sequel, then it becomes much harder to do so because a lot of the things set up and talked about in Now You See Me make even less sense when you take the sequel into account. This is especially true with everything that happens with Thaddeus, because now you're stuck trying and failing to pull out the mental gymnastics needed for the reveal at the end of the sequel to make any kind of sense. Overall, Now You See Me gets an A-. Now I know the grade given seems pretty generous considering the film isn't as good as other similar heist films like Ocean's 11, but I have rather fond memories of Now You See Me as it was the first heist film I ever saw. And yes, I say that knowing full well films like the Fast and Furious series exist. But I didn't get into that until Furious 7, so yeah. Now You See Me holds a high ranking in my books, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I enjoy watching it. It's a dumb fun heist film full of magic tricks galore that are pulled off by enjoyable characters, played by a surprisingly stacked cast full of big names and recognizable actors. The film also has plenty of thrills to keep the audience engaged with creative action sequences and magic tricks that are a delight to see in execution and explanation, though it unfortunately relies a bit too much on CGI to carry it through. The story, while following a typical heist film plotline, has a refreshing Robin Hood twist as the horsemen perform their feats to balance the scales between the corrupt and the innocent. Unfortunately, it also has quite a few plot holes and questionable leaps in logic made, as the story is not as smart as it likes to think it is. But even still, Now You See Me is a great way to kill time and quiet the doom and gloom thoughts in your head as you get lost in the dazzling spectacle of the Four Horsemen's magical performances. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Reminder that this is just my opinion, so you can take it with as many grains of salt as you want. I don't mind either way, and would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment which film you'd like me to give my 2 cents about next. This is some random Neko, going out to indulge my sudden urge to learn some cardistry now. Don't forget to keep calm and just meow.